Episode 131, Matthew Battistone. Matt, well met and welcome to the Realm.
Thank you for having me.
Tell our listeners and our viewers about you, what you write, and where they can find you.
Well, I had recently just got my first book published, Horrors of the Night. It's a collection of 4 short horror stories. I've loved horror my entire life. I grew up with Goosebumps, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, The Twilight Zone, media like that. I grew up with them, and it always kind of spoke to me. And then around the time of high school, I wanted to be a writer, so I figured I'd give it a shot, and then I guess I'm out here now.
So I read it, and it's exactly that. It is horror to its core. It's the short form stuff that really kind of gets you looking out your windows in October and listening to all the bumps in the night. What gave you the inspiration for the novel? I know it's a series of smaller stories, but is this stuff that's been rattling around in your head since you were younger, or where did it all come from?
The first story in the book deals with about a father and a son going on a hunting trip, and scary monster in the woods. It's a pretty kind of by the book story. That started out as an assignment for my junior year English class, and then I decided to give it another crack at it when I wanted to make it in a book collection, and then it became the story that it is now. That was technically probably the first story that I had actually written that was like full on beginning, middle, end. There isn't really like a process that I have for trying to come up with ideas. Like, I could be sitting at home doing absolutely nothing, and I look at something and I'm like, oh, that's a good premise. Like, it was around Christmas time and we have a fireplace in our house, and I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if there was like some type of spirit that could like crawl its way out from the fire pit ashes? And I was like, oh, that would be kind of like a cool premise. So there isn't really kind of like a rhyme or reason for how like I'll get an idea for stuff. It just kind of comes to me.
And that's cool. So getting back to that first story, I really, that is something that's cool. That's something that's almost historic within you, something that you grew up with and have continued to form and reform. The story of the father and the son hunting, especially out here in Western Pennsylvania, you get all of that. Did that come from personal experience, or was that just a story that you made up and just kept tweaking along the way?
So believe it or not, I've never actually gone hunting. I actually have a friend, he goes out hunting with his father, and I would ask him because I got the premise for the idea. I was like, oh, father and son go hunting. But I was like, I wanted to at least get lingo right, or, like get procedure right. So I would ask him for a bunch of input on like, okay, what would they wear? Like, what would be the process of them going out hunting? Like, how long are they out there for? Stuff like that.
And that's cool. So big question is, will there be a follow-up to Horror of the Night? I mean, are you going to do another short story collection, or what's your next work in progress?
I actually have a notebook with a ton of ideas for
How did I guess?
Because I do intend to make it. I probably have enough. I can make 2 more volumes.
Oh, I love that. Well, you're the first person on here that I've had on the Realm that has done sort of a collection of short stories. Not necessarily an anthology per se. You haven't had any other authors writing alongside you, but is that the plan? Like, if this thing takes off and you start to grow in popularity, are you going to invite other horror authors in, and can I sneak in as a dark fantasy guy?
Hey, I would be honored to do that. Because I think personally for me, writing short stories is kind of more so my expertise. I've tried more like full on, like, standard 300-page novel type stories, and I kind of, at least not yet, I kind of haven't really kind of gotten into the groove of doing it. I find doing like these 20 to 40-page stories a lot easier for me to write, because it's kind of like a little easier to kind of get to the point of it, if that makes sense.
It sure does, and it's funny you mention that, because I'm almost on the opposite side of the spectrum. Like, I write, all my stuff is long form, right? I have a hard time writing small. So what I did was I challenged myself and I started writing a Vella, so I would be forced, every chapter, every episode was 1,500 words or less, and I've gotten better at it. It's just not my preferred methodology. But have you dipped into the Vella phenomenon, the serialized phenomenon, or are you staying, to this sort of like traditional short story publication format that you've got going on?
So for right now, for the stuff that like I intend to publish, it's largely been the short story format.
Yeah, speaking of publishing, you're traditionally published, and a lot of folks that watch us are deciding which direction to go. Oftentimes, being a traditionally published author is a lot harder to get to based on gatekeepers. And the temptation is, let me be an indie author and I can go and publish on Amazon tomorrow and then just work hard, and marketing my stuff. Was that always the plan for you, or have you ever flirted with indie authorship? And, how have your sales been going for Horror of the Night?
So, I mean, obviously, well, when I started, because I'm still extremely new to all this. So when I went in, I got in touch with a company called Dorrance Publishing. I mean, I'm from Pittsburgh and they're Pittsburgh based. So I guess I had gotten pretty lucky in the grand scheme of things.
Yep. So congrats on the quick success, man, and keep doing it. So, as a first time author, pass along a little advice, a nugget of wisdom for our viewers. What was the most difficult part of finishing your first novel for you?
The most difficult part was once the main bulk of it was finished, was going back and editing, reading over, and tweaking details. I've told people, I've read my book so many times, I don't think I ever want to read it again.
Well, Matt, we've come to the end of the show, and we do this with every one of our guests. We have a quick little kind of lightning round for the next few minutes. I'm going to throw 3 or 4 questions at you. These are designed to have sort of quick answers, have fun with it. So these are going to come out of left field. I hope they stump you. But I'll start off with a little bit of a softball because I know that you and I are both comic book fans. What is your favorite comic book series of all time?
Ultimate Spider-Man from the early 2000s. I got the entire series of that all the way up through the 2015 Secret Wars event.
Cool. That's cool. I got a different question for you then.
Okay.
In terms of undiscovered comics, what I mean by that is a comic strip that doesn't get as much fanfare as it should, that you think you can give a little play to today. What would that comic be?
Let's see. I got my comic shelf right next to me, actually.
No cheating, man. This is a lightning round.
Probably the best one I could probably think of would be Michael Bay's Transformers movie comics, because I know kind of Michael Bay's Transformers movies kind of have a split divide with how people like them, but the comics are really good.
All right, so my last question for you is this. You're the star of your own horror novel, and you're the one in the woods, and you're creeping around in your fog and darkness, and you stumble upon your most feared enemy. Who would it be and why?
I don't know. I'm
Come on, don't let me down, man. Don't let me down.
So I'm not exactly the biggest fan of bugs. So
that's fair.
If it was probably something like some massive spider or some massive bee or something.
Just to correct you here for a second, we just talked about your favorite comic book being Spider-Man, and you're afraid of spiders.
Well, ones that are way larger than they should be.
All right. Anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on the Realm. Please promise me to come back when you get the next group of books, the Horror of the Night Part 2 or whatever you're going to call it. Let me know. I'd love to have you back on the Realm.
I'd be honored, of course.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks again to our guest, Matthew Battistone. I love getting folks that are fresh authors that have new ideas. He's just put out his first 4 horror stories into his own anthology. And for me, I've got the completion of the Realm of Warminster, my own 4 stories, and it'll be available right before the holidays here in 2023. Go out and get Echoes of Ghostwood book number 4, or pick up the entire box set of the Realm of Warminster, which will be available online at dragonmoonpress.com, on Amazon, or anywhere else that you can find and buy books, download your ebook, or listen to your audiobooks. And thank you again for coming. And to my followers, thank you again for lending me your ear today. And until next time, I'm J.V. Hilliard, and may your gods go with you.